Bună ziua și bine ați revenit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Puterea Știrilor în direct de aici, din Parlamentul European de la Strasbourg. Am astăzi onoarea de a-l avea alături de mine pe europarlamentarul René Repasi, președinte al delegației S&D din Germania. Mr. Repasi, thank you very much for being with us, for accepting our invitation.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
I'd like to start this interview with a new European budget for next year. Was approved this day here in European Parliament with a new allocation, I saw, for some points. What signal this sent to about the European Union priorities for the next year? At the time of a war, because it's a war still in Ukraine, unfortunately, about migration, climate change. So what's the priorities for European Union?
Indeed, we had this vote on the union budget this week. This is a vote that has also to be seen in the context. We had another vote that is of relevance in that context on the European Defence Industry Act, where it was precisely on the point that you have mentioned. We are living in times where the security and the defence concerns of our citizens are the top number one priority. And the European Union has to address this. And we see that we have a war at our eastern border, where countries that are closer to Russia are more affected than others. But defense is something where we have to work together. Our 27 countries cannot do it on their own. It's a per se European task. So we also need to have the financial means for that. And the new budget is securing these financial means within the extent that is possible. It's still that we do not have that much money. It's just 2% of the GDP that is EU money, which we can use for many things. But what is possible, we make available for defense. With the European Defence Act, we say we want to also ask member states to invest more in defense capacities, but then in European defense capacities, so that the money also supports European defense and European jobs in that context. And that's what we can see in this particular budget as well, and with the other decisions taken.
I saw that was a fight, I can say, a fight between European Parliament and the European Commission about this budget. Yeah, it was a really long discussion about this. So it's like the winner was the European Parliament, no?
Well, it's ultimately, it's of course still to be seen what the final judgment is, since we have this budget for this year, and we have the other debate on the so-called multi-annual financial framework. We have a very difficult way of
after this year, yeah.
Precisely. We have a very difficult way of how Europe is financed, although we have every year a budget, as we know it also from our home countries. Europe gets a 7-year plan that member states give to us and say, okay, every year you get that much money, you're allowed to spend that much money. How about you do it per year is your thing, but overall, within 7 years, that's what it is fixed. And we are currently in the process of discussing what is happening from next year on for this 7-year period. And that was also where the discussion is currently playing out. The European Commission wants to have more flexibility to choose their own priorities, and by that also to say to member states' governments, well, follow our line, then you will get money from us. If you don't get money from us. And there we say as Parliament, no, that's not how it works. We are elected by the citizens to decide how citizens' money is spent. So we want to decide on this. And that was also a bit the background of the discussion that we had here. And here it's good that the legislator, that the Parliament made clear they have the last say, and that then citizens' preferences are also properly represented by us parliamentarians.
What do you think is the relationship right now in this day, in this period, between European Parliament and the Commission? It's hard to have a relation.
It's tensed. It's tensed because we have a European Commission that is very good in nice headlines, but in terms of delivering, can perform better. We see that we have now one big party group, the Christian Democratic Party, the EPP, that is the largest group here in Parliament. They have the majority in the Commission, they have the majority in the Council. And you can basically see how they play party politics in the institutions. Previously, we had different majority situations in the different institutions, and so things were more government, parliament, and the national governments. And now you see more and more party politics in there. And that has effects of how we talk and look to each other. And if then the Commission starts to do more party preferences than actual EU preferences, we in Parliament, of course, get a bit angry about that matter. Now, we had seen here two motions of censure against Ursula von der Leyen as President of the Commission. Both were not successful. But it was for the first time after decades that we had such motion with quite heated debates. So you see how the relationship between the Commission and the Parliament is tensed.
Tense, not so good, so
Yes.
can be more good. So what's the biggest risk if this, because we were talking about the budget for the next year, what is the biggest risk if these budget priorities fail?
Citizens have an expectation that we deliver on things. And we have also just seen it in recent polls. Citizens' main concern is security and is defense. And we see how we have more and more hybrid attacks from Russia on European territory. I think Romania has quite some experiences in the
These
recent
days
time.
also, yes.
Even in the central and western parts of Europe, we see how we have drones that are interrupting flight traffic. But that is nothing compared to what we have seen indeed in recent days in Romania, what we see in the Baltic states, what we see in Poland. So we cannot say this is a war that is raging outside of Europe. It is happening inside of Europe. And here citizens demand, urge us that something is going to change. And if we leave member states alone, they can do what they can. But together we are stronger. And here we need to deliver on it. And citizens' patience is over. They want to see concrete results. And that's what this budget has to implement.
And I want to discuss also about the new plan of peace between, if I can say that, new plan of peace between Russia and Ukraine. There is been a big debate these days about this plan. What is Germany's position? How do you see this plan from America?
Yeah, is it really from America? I mean, we have seen these articles in the United States that say that the English is a bit strange, and it seems rather to be translations from Russian. Well,
so do you think it's a Russia plan?
Yeah, irrespective of whether that's true or not, we do see that Russia's main goals are actually mentioned by this, namely the aggressor. Russia gets what they wanted. They will get big parts of Ukraine, even those where that they do not occupy it yet. They get Crimea, they get the eastern parts of Ukraine, they get security guarantees in terms of no expansion to NATO, and Ukraine gets nothing. And we have the European Union that was supposed to commit itself in terms of security guarantees, but only to use the money that we have in order to spend on American defense products. So you see that this is a deal between two imperialistic powers that say the rest of the world is just small players and they have to play alongside with our rules. And that's what we oppress on those countries. So therefore, the German Chancellor is also clear in this. That's not going to happen with us. We don't want to be part of that game. We were clear in supporting Ukraine from day one on that this war started. And we want to defend Ukraine's sovereignty as we defend Europe's sovereignty. And therefore, we had a counter-proposal, amongst which Germany has negotiated it in the last meeting of the leaders. So we are glad that there are talks. We are glad that we want to go on a path towards peace, but that's not peace at any cost. It's Ukraine's sovereign and own decision whether they accept the terms or not. Currently, this is unacceptable for Ukraine as it is unacceptable for the Europeans. So we are ready to engage with the ideas put forward, obviously, but not under the terms that are now on the table.
It's an unacceptable plan for Germany.
Yes, in large parts it is unacceptable. Of course, there are elements that are acceptable if you're going to peace, and there needs to be talks.
What must be the priorities on this plan, in your opinion?
Well, from our point of view, it once again, must be Europe's and Ukraine's sovereignty that must be protected. So if we have a situation where the aggressor ultimately gets its own will, then this is not helping for peace. Because then Russia will actually see that their strategy was right. By invading Ukraine, weakening Ukraine, and getting even parts of the territory globally by all countries being recognized. If this is the end, the signal sent to Russia is, it's okay what you did. So where should they stop? Why should they then not invade the Baltics? It's a wrong signal that then NATO and the Americans give, in a sense that we actually don't care about Europe. So what are the security guarantees that we have for the European Union part of Europe if the Americans say, we don't really care about this? So if we were to go into this direction, we send the wrong signals, and by that might have a short period of peace, but actually with war continuing afterwards, and that is something that is unacceptable.
But do you think that Ukraine can win this war with Russia without United States, only with European Union?
The thing is, honestly, very personally said, I don't think that there is ever a winner in war. There are only losers. So in that sense, what is most important is that Russia doesn't win, but that in the end for Ukraine there's a solution that they don't lose. And that is more where we have to look at. A country like Russia was never be able to be conquered. Napoleon tried it, failed. Germany tried it, failed. Others tried it, failed. It's just impossible to conquer, and by that it's impossible to win in the traditional terms of how wars are decided by winners or losers. But we do have a winner if the status quo ante, before the war break out, is the status that remains, that the territory of Ukraine remains untouched, and that there are security guarantees for Ukraine for whatever happens in the future, so that the war cannot break out once again. That, however, I think I'm with you here. As it stands, without US support, we won't have our own defense capacities to defend ourselves against Russia, even if we have now some sort of peace treaty there. So without the Americans, it is not possible. So we need the Americans here, but at the same time improve our own defense capacities towards a time where we might be able to defend ourselves easier without the Americans than we currently do.
But also the relationship between European Union and America, it's very difficult these days. With
Indeed.
taxes and...
Indeed, we see that we have across the Atlantic, the Americans, let's say the relationship between America and the European continent is much older than Trump. So I do believe that the relationship in itself is stable, but we currently have no friend in the White House. And we have the American government, which is not acting as if they were friends of Europe. They basically say, for one deal we are friends, for another we are enemies. A very transactional way of looking at relationships. We can't do that. We as Europeans must internalize it, that we are not having a stable friendship, but one that works sometimes and doesn't work at times. It only shows that we have a lot of homework still to do as Europeans in order to be more autonomous of this. But we can also not conclude that the Americans are now enemies. Just our friendship is changing, and we can hope that the Americans once will elect another president in the White House that is more of a friend of Europe than the current one.
How does the S&D group see the idea of a European air defense shield? So, and what's the role should Germany play in building it?
Mm-hmm. So, from our point of view, defense is a European task to the extent our treaties allow it. The European Union was not built as a defense community. There is NATO, and it's NATO's job to organize our actual military defense capacities. Europe can support it with a defense industry and with helping for the production of what is needed for this, but it's not a task the European Union can do. It's a task that the NATO has to do. And in this context, Germany will participate in its NATO obligations, as NATO has decided. And if we go for that sort of shield, and we have a distribution of obligations within the NATO context, Germany will participate in its share.
If you could change one European Union economic or legal policy tomorrow, what you'll be and why?
Yeah. If there's one thing that I would love to change, then it's the unanimity rule, because we currently see that actually in those policy fields where it matters, in foreign affairs, in security matters, in tax matters, in social matters, we have the unanimity rule, so that one state can block it, that we cannot progress. And citizens say what they need is social security, they need defense, they need internal security, they need tax justice, they need social justice. If you look at the top priorities, what citizens demand from us is where we have unanimity, where we cannot move forward because there's one prime minister who has currently trouble with Europe because of issues of rule of law and blocks everything and anything.
It's what Hungary does.
Precisely. It is what Hungary does, but maybe tomorrow it's another country. That's not how it works. One country takes hostage of the others. This is not how progress looks like, especially in times that are so quickly changing as nowadays. And in order to do so, we need to come to majority decisions amongst the member states so that we can progress in the interest of our citizens.
I saw that these days here in European Parliament was a discussion about Hungary also.
As always. We regularly discuss issues of Hungary, unfortunately. Yeah.
So what are the conclusions after this debate?
Now, the conclusion is that we need to do everything in order to help Hungary to have free elections and to come to an electoral result that brings change to Hungary. We look at the current polls that for once a different party than the governing party has a chance to win. So that civil society can also breathe air again and that we can have change in this country. At this moment, we see how the press is not independent anymore. We see how judges are not independent anymore. We see how civil society organizations are oppressed. So all the signs that we know from authoritarian regimes, where we have no freedom of speech and nothing of that kind. And if a country is part of the European Union, where the protection of the freedom of speech, the protection of basic human rights is core of our values, then a country also must respect them. But we are not a union that has a police that can invade a country that is not respecting it. Ultimately, we are based on a voluntary conviction that it is right to do so. And therefore, we have only limited instruments to enforce that. But we must make use of those. If somebody wants to have European money, then respect our values. If you don't respect it, then don't get the money. Our citizens don't give the money to the European Union in order to give it to autocrats. So here the European Commission could be more consequent in their application of these laws that we gave them to them. If there's somebody who doesn't like what we do, fine. But then don't expect that taxpayers, EU taxpayers' money is going to be given to this country. And this is one of the main conclusions that we basically always have when we debate Hungary.
Mr. Repasi, like you told us a few minutes ago, in Romania was some incidents with Russian drones flight on our territory. I was discussing here these days in European Parliament about this situation, and some members told me that it's actually part of Russia's hybrid war. What do you think? What is trying Russia to do with these drones on our territory?
I am convinced that this is part of Russia's hybrid war strategy, and it is basically showing that we are vulnerable. It is not active war like we see it in Ukraine, but it shows Russia has possibilities to do something, and they make use of it, and they harm us. It starts with smaller things like your plane cannot land in the city that you want to land, and you have to land in another airport, and then you have to take a car. Or whatever, you will be there one day later. But if you look at what happens in Romania, where actually really people get harmed by what was done by those drones, Russia lets us show you're not safe. And that creates a feeling of uncertainty amongst citizens. And if people are unsafe and uncertain, they take decisions that might not be reasonable. Vote for people that are not in the interest of the stability of a country, but make promises that you want to hear in times of uncertainty and where you do not feel safe. And that is what they want to do. This is to be seen in conjunction with what we see in social media, fake news spreading, telling something or one thing, and we see citizens not trusting regular media channels anymore, but going for alternative media with alternative truths and whatever there is.
It's always a fight for democracy these days. It's a fight.
This is precisely what this is about, and this drone strategy is part of it. It creates uncertainty, and it is what we have seen with terrorist attacks in the last decades. It's the same kind of strategy. It's not that you will conquer a country by this, but you bring the seed of, I'm not feeling safe in my home anymore, and this is the most destructive to our societies. And therefore, indeed, it's ultimately a fight of democracy. And if we lose this battle of democracy, Russia can win this war without having one soldier to set its step on European soil.
What Romania should do, in your opinion, about after these incidents?
I do have to admit that I don't know what the Romanian government is already doing. From what I see from the outside is that Romania is doing quite a lot. Romania is quite outspoken when it is about fighting fake news and protecting its citizens against what is happening in social media. There were calls also to have clear measures to just shoot drones when they are entering Romania. There are calls also to European countries to help, to support what is happening there. So I do think within the possibilities that the Romanian government has, they do a lot to achieve this. And ultimately, more can always be done. But that's the thing about those drones. When do you detect it? When do you act it? It's part of a terrorist strategy that a government can never be that well informed about what is happening in order to fully prevent it. There are more possibilities, and it's my understanding that the Romanian government is exploring those possibilities and is doing what it can in order to protect its citizens the best.
Germany is Romania's largest trading partner, and but also a key security ally. How you see the evolution of the strategic partnership between the two countries, let's say in next decade?
Romania is a very important partner for Germany. We see that Romania is, as for now, a stable democracy. We don't see Romania going into a direction like Hungary is currently doing, like Poland did, like Slovakia is going into. So we see that in contrast to other countries of Central and Eastern Europe, Romania is stable. We have parties that find compromise in the center, they form stable governments, although the challenges increase. So that makes it that for a German government, but also for the German economy, Romania is a good, stable and reliable partner. And that is important, in particular in this region of Europe. And that will only be more strengthened if Romania stays on a path of stable growth and stability and a stable democracy.
Mr. Repasi, you are the president of S&D group in Germany. What are the priorities next years, and how you see the relationship with the S&D group from Romania?
Yes, our relationship with the S&D group of Romania here in the European Parliament is excellent. Victor Negrescu is a personal friend of mine. I'm in the industry committee where Danica is the coordinator, and we have an excellent cooperation between the German and the Romanian delegation in those fields. Germany and Romania have a comparable vision on industrial development and that we need to strengthen our industry whilst transforming our economy towards the protection of climate. So we have a lot of things in common. The Romanian Social Democratic Party is one of a tradition to govern, to know therefore how to make compromises, as is the German Social Democratic Party. So we look at politics in the same and in a very similar way. So therefore our relationship is very good with the Romanian delegation here. And I believe also our group in the European Parliament is only benefiting from this close relationship. If you look at the priorities of the German delegation here in Parliament, we are indeed listening to our citizens that we have the security concerns, but in a broad sense. It's defense, it's internal security, it's social security. We see in Germany that we have industries that are laying off jobs monthly with a 5-digit number. We see how the jobs of today we are losing, well-paid industry workers' jobs, and we have to do something. And it has to be more than simply calling for stop bureaucracy. Stop bureaucracy is an element of it, but not the solution. We need to have proper investments in our industries, in the infrastructure. We cannot always call for electrification of transportation, etc., but no infrastructure is anywhere. So if we want to go there, we need to have the grids, we need to have the infrastructure for hydrogen, for other elements in order to get there. If we simply call on things and make rules, but nothing changes on the ground, it won't work. So we need here to have investments that this is working in order to help our industries and to lower energy prices. So this is one thing. The other thing is indeed to increase the defense production capacities in Europe so that we are able to grow also as European defense industry with having more investments in the defense part. And thirdly, we believe in order to keep our societies together, our societies have to become more equal. You see how social justice is coming more and more under strain. We see that our societies over the last decades did not become more equal but less equal, which creates dissatisfaction, where we see that the richest of the rich get even more and more money, whilst those that are working get a little bit more, but not comparably. This is a bomb under our societies. So we have to work how we get that back together.
So this is the big problem in Germany's society?
We see that social and economic inequalities are an enormous problem. We see that we have citizens in the rural areas who do not feel hurt by the capital, by people living in the cities. We see that people are working hard and they are not able to sustain the life of themselves and their children by paying rents and daily life expenditure, looking at energy bills, etc. And if you have a general feeling of uncertainty by hybrid attacks from Russia, but at the same time, every day is uncertainty. Will I be able by the end of the month to pay my rent, to be able to pay for the school trip of my child? Then this is something that creates so much uncertainty, it's not acceptable. And a rich country like Germany must be able to provide for a system that no child, no parent must be in such fear.
Can we say that it's also a hybrid war? Like people are thinking they are not very, I don't know, maybe safe, or they are not very happy, not part of the people in Germany.
We do see that, let's say, this feeling of you are not feeling safe, so that the world in 10 years is going to be a mess, that is very much fed
Europe
by...
is not ready.
Europe is not ready, and other messages that is very much fed on social media. At the same time, we still see, I mean, there are many comparisons with 100 years ago when the Weimar Republic collapsed, the Nazis rise in Germany. The economic situation was way worse than nowadays. But if you talk to citizens, they have the feeling that we are at the same verge of a big catastrophe. This feeling comes from somewhere. Once again, it is to some extent amplified by social media, but that's not everything. There are also concrete facts that must be addressed, and one of the facts is if the richest of the rich don't get taxed or pay less taxes than ordinary working class people, then something is wrong here. And that's we have the possibilities in our own hands. We can raise taxes for the rich and we can lower them for the others. We can introduce minimum income that is actually increasing. We can make sure that our social security systems are sufficiently equipped to pay for proper pensions. This is something we can do. And we are not living in a poor part of the world, but in a rich part of the world. So I do believe we need a change of the political mindset that has these redistribution questions and the question of more equality has to put it into the center of their political action.
So finally, do you think, Mr. Repasi, Europe is entering a new era where security, not economics, will define, let's say, political priorities?
I think Europe is entering a new area. It's entering actually a new area of politics. I believe what we have seen before is more a apolitical creature. Europe was indeed economy, internal market. We cooperate economically in order to create growth for the better of our citizens. And I think this was right in this period of time. After the Second World War, all nations were looking at each other with big suspicion. And if you then cooperate in economic terms, people say, here we can cooperate, it's not that political, it's good for the economy, for jobs, for growth, etc. And we achieved to grow together by economic means. But at some moment of time, we must realize if the challenges in the world are global, climate change, wars, security chain challenges, then it cannot simply be done by economic cooperation, but politics has to follow. And security is a big part of politics. That we do have a state as citizens is because we want them to protect us with centralized power, be it internally with police, be it externally with armies. So therefore security is obviously now becoming a policy priority because that is what politics is about. And that means also Europe is transforming.
Mr. Repasi, before we close, I want to tell you that next Monday, like 1st December, it's Romanian National Day. Approaches many Romanians are reflecting these days on our role and our future within European Union. With this in mind, what is your messages for Romania, for Romanians at this important day, a national day?
Yeah, I think Romania and the Romanians can be proud of themselves. Romania started 30 years from an extreme bloody dictatorship that was brutally oppressing its own citizens. And only in this couple of decades, Romania transformed into a stable democracy. Of course, with problems that are always there. But instead of falling back into tendencies of running behind leaders that promise nothing and going back into authoritarian systems, there was the belief of the Romanians in that Romania is better off differently. Romania is one of the countries that started addressing issues of corruption very effectively. There is still more to be done, but it is tackled. Romanians don't close their eyes about shortcomings, but address them. And that makes it the most stable democracy in this region. And this is something Romania and the Romanians can be proud of on a day where you reflect on your democracy. That's your biggest strength, and by that you're the most important partner in this region.
Mr. Repasi, thank you very much for your time and again for accepting our invitation in this interview. Cam atât de aici, din Parlamentul European, de la Strasbourg. Ne revedem luni de la ora 16 într-o ediție specială de 1 decembrie. Istoricul Bogdan Bucur va fi alături de mine în studioul Puterea Știrilor. Eu vă mulțumesc că ați fost astăzi alături de mine și vă doresc o seară cât mai plăcută.